Pardon me, I apologize. How?
No worries.
All right.
Just do a test on the audio, Seth. Just want to make sure we
Yep.
get you clear.
Yep, test 1, 2. Nice to see everyone today.
You just might have to pump them up a little bit, Ariel. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're coming in a little low on
Okay.
our end, Seth, on Zoom. Get you.
No problem, and I can
We're on the air in like a minute and a half, so we're in break
Thank
right
you.
now.
Sorry, we had like a call.
No,
It was like a.
Took a little while.
Yeah, it took a little while. It was a call that, I love getting just a fan that gets inspired from our show. So we went a little bit long. So that was a good call.
Hey, I'm glad you guys are on air.
Dude, and I want to talk a lot about it. Mark Henry was obviously there not that long ago when AEW was in town, and then he called me and he said, "Dave, you gotta go." And he said some of the stuff that he saw blew him away. So we got to talk a lot about that. And like really, Seth, because that Thunder mentioned before the Hall of Fame in Wichita, that's gone, right? That closed down. The one in Texas.
That is correct, and I was gonna, bring that up. And I was gonna save Thunder, you from having to take that long ride. The museum had started in upstate New York, went to Wichita Falls, Texas, and it was it went underwater there, and so we've done our best to salvage as much as possible and bring it back to the arena. So when AEW comes back through town, you've got to stop in and see it.
I think we're gonna be there for a couple days. It's Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We have a show on Rhode Island. Coming back in on the second.
Hey, Paul, I can hear you typing.
I know.
Okay, all right.
I got you.
All right, back in 5.
Back here on Busted Open, Dave LaGreca, Thunder Rosa, and we talked a lot about it going into the show today. Also a lot this morning, Thunder, about our next guest, and that is Seth Turner of the International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and a physical pro wrestling Hall of Fame. I know this is not a knock on the WWE Hall of Fame because they acknowledge the legends, but there's not a physical Hall of Fame. But there is one at the MVP Arena in Albany on Pearl Street. And in that arena is a physical Hall of Fame. We've heard Mick Foley talk about it. Our very own Mark Henry has praised this Hall of Fame up and down. It's the International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. And let's bring in the man himself, Mr. Seth Turner. Seth, thank you so much for the time. And even more than that, thank you for what you're doing with the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Dave, thank you very much for having me on this morning, and Thunder, it is my pleasure to be here with you. Dave, you know that we've been hustling the last couple of years. We would cross paths in different independent promotions up and down on the East Coast. But yes, we have brought to fruition this wonderful museum here at the MVP Arena, where today the NCAA basketball tournament is being held. So in just a short time, we're going to have about 25,000 fans that will be coming in. It's about a 15,000 fan arena, but they're running 2 sessions of 4 different games today. So Thunder had mentioned earlier that there had been a museum in Wichita Falls, Texas. That is now defunct. And sorry, Texas, but we worked as hard as we could to get as many of those materials salvaged. Thanks to some wonderful people like Lori McGee Hurst, who really hustled down in Texas to save these items that were going to get lost. But we've brought it to the MVP Arena in New York, and maybe you don't know that name immediately, but this is the arena where Ric Flair won the Royal Rumble in 1992 to be the first WWE champion for himself. This is where the beer bath incident took place, where Stone Cold drove the truck into the arena and soaked McMahon and The Rock. This is where, what you're looking at right behind me, that is the first Money in the Bank briefcase that was cashed in this arena So this arena by itself has a great deal of history, and with a group of volunteers to bring this museum, which is an educational institution. Let's go back to that. Our intent is to educate. I want to be clear, we are not in the wrestling business. We are in the business of educating people and having a museum. And we intentionally brought the word international into the title because we wanted to recognize that the contributions from individuals from all around the globe were as important as the people here from just the Northeast.
I was gonna ask, I was very curious because, every time I see like somebody having a museum, right? I've been in a museum, the only museum of Lucha Libre, which is in Tijuana, which is a private collection of someone who like literally has traveled all over the country and collected even hair from like hair matches. It's incredible the things that you guys can collect to educate people on this. Why was it important for you to make it more international than just like a WWE museum?
Well, first and foremost, because I mean, let's just go back. The history of pro wrestling goes back at least to the middle of the 1800s, and so we can't start the history lesson in 1963. We've got to go back a full 100 years or more before that. And so even in this institution, as I'm talking to you now, behind me is a 100-year-old wrestling belt from the Al Half territory. It was owned by Pink Gardner. And you wouldn't know that name if you don't come in and see the actual belt. Or I'm looking past my computer at Gorgeous George's hair curling machine that was featured in 1947 in Life magazine. Or we'll get objects and start to track it down. And Thunder, just for you today, this is Fabulous Moolah's original belt. Goes back to 1953. On the internet, you're only going to see 1956. So in the other room, we've got quite an array of materials from female wrestlers. And, so it's as important that we recognize not only those from different countries, those who are representing different cultures, those who are representing all sorts of underrepresented populations. And so we're not going to say we have it perfect because we don't yet, but we're going to keep working to try to improve and make it better so that we have as many people being represented, because we know pro wrestling is universal. It is appreciated by people of all different ages, all different backgrounds. And so that's what we're here to do, is to try to intentionally make sure that everyone gets represented. In fact, I apologize, Dave, but when I did meet Thunder, she didn't know who I was. I went up to her in Poughkeepsie a year ago, and I had felt like a creep, and I'm going to own it, because she had posted about 3 months prior a very beautiful silhouette photo that I thought captured a Latina wrestler, and it was in the aquamarine headdress that was sort of a peacock. And I just thought, we need to have that image 10 feet tall on the side of our building. Now, so I went up to Thunder and said, can we have that? Can we use that image? And she did agree. She didn't know who I was. We don't have it yet. So if we can, get do some fundraising, we would love to have that represented. Not because I thought how beautiful that image was for all of the other female wrestlers or Latinas that are going to come into this arena, that we need to have that represented. So I felt bad that I went up to you, Thunder, when I didn't know you that well. But thank you for being so accommodating, as Dave has talked about in the past, how much you do.
Might be, a victim of greedy or to make it better and know what steps they took, not face the same
that's what's great about being in the arena. And Mark, and I walked up to him and said, I told you I was gonna do this. I shook his hand, and you're right. He took it in, as have every person who walks into this venue. Doesn't matter the age, whether they're in the business or completely from the outside, they walk in and something jogs a memory, something strikes them. We've had people in tears. Next to me, I'll show you, is Jimmy Snuka. You can kind of see that. Well, imagine his sister coming in, Tamina, and seeing her father's artifacts on display. But can I read down, yesterday we announced our class of 2023, and before we lose time, let me rattle off who's going to go in with our class of 2023, so it gets out there to the Busted Open Nation, and everybody can tell us we're right, we're wrong, they can argue about it. But what I'll do is first say we have a process which is as pure as we could possibly have, in which 5 individuals serve on a ballot committee, completely separate from our Board of Trustees, and then the ballot is prepared and sent out to 40 to 50 voters from all over the globe who are people who are in the business, either wrestlers or historians or writers. I want to go over our ballot committee was chaired by Mark Hewitt, who is a very well-respected historian, and historians Don Luce, Nathan Hatton, Phil Lyons, and Tim Hornbaker put together the ballot, which was then voted on by between 40 and 50 pro wrestlers and those in the business. Going in this year, let's start with the ladies. June Byers. Now we go old school, so you may not know these names, and some of the listeners may not know these names, but that's okay. That's where we do the research. So we're going to go with Dan McLeod, George Lurick, Vern Gagne, Mitsuhiro Misawa, Bret Hart, Bob Backlund, The Great Muta, Kenta Kobayashi, and finally Gorgeous George. So that will be our class of 2023. We have our event at the last weekend of August. It will be held here at the arena. This year it's going to be hosted by Teddy Long and company. In the years prior, it's been Bill Apter and J.J. Dillon, and we've had in attendance Dory Funk Jr. and Ted DiBiase and Booker T and Bushwhacker Luke, or Susan Sexton, who's a female wrestler that a lot of people don't know out of Australia, but and there's been a lot more. So this year we will have our event the last weekend in August. People can check out our website at prowrestlinghall.org for information. But because we also recognize that there are people who don't get captured in the ballot process, we intentionally had to also include others. So we have other awards that we give out. Each year we give out the Rocky Soulman Johnson Medal of Metal Award. That is to somebody who works diligently to overcome adversity. Rocky Johnson was a dear friend, and he was on our Board of Trustees before he tragically passed in January of 2020. So to remember Rocky, we give this out every year to somebody who's working really hard to overcome something. And this year was a gentleman named Joe DeFino, and Mick Foley was here about 2 weeks ago to help us do that ceremony. It was beautiful, very private ceremony, but it was outstanding. We have another award for a Trailblazer Award, and that's always to recognize someone who has done something that has never been done before in the business. And working with the Jarrett family, this year we will be recognizing Teeny Christine Jarrett, who was absolutely instrumental in running the Memphis territory. So we look forward to recognizing Teeny Jarrett. The Cauliflower Alley Club kind of got the jump on us last year as they gave some recognition, but that's okay. She deserves that recognition from their organization, and here where we can have a physical representation. And then I'm here to announce for the entire Busted Open Nation, and Thunder, I'm glad you're part of this, because you were a key part last week on something you guys couldn't have imagined. Behind me you see bronze plaques as well. And those bronze plaques go to our inductees. And last year during a concert in this arena, there was a young lady who was visually impaired, and she came to our arena, and she came in the museum, and she was so enthralled by our bronze plaques because she loved pro wrestling, but she could finally feel what the faces of some of her favorite wrestlers looked like. And it struck us. And last week, almost to the hour, you guys had a caller from the nation call in who mentioned that it was the description given on Busted Open Radio of the Sami Zayn spot on Monday Night Raw that gave this visually impaired individual an opportunity to participate in wrestling. And that hit us with the Board of Trustees right in the heart. We heard that, and there's a award that we give out, and Dave LaGreca, in 2023, the International Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame would like to give to you the Excelsior Award. We would like for Dave LaGreca to be a member of our Hall of Fame. Excelsior is the motto of the state of New York, and it means ever upward and ever higher. And the work you have done in Busted Open Radio, which is I mean, who would have thought that a radio show which started at 1 hour a week, then turned into a couple hours, then 3 days a week, then into now 5 days a week. You have elevated professional wrestling by using a medium which didn't even exist 20 years ago. And so for that, sir, we at the Hall of Fame would like for you, Mr. Dave LaGreca, to accept the Excelsior Award for 2023.
Wow, I am completely honored. I am extremely honored. Thank you so much, Seth, for, I mean, I do this for the fans. I do it because I love the world of pro wrestling. So to be a part of your Hall of Fame means the world to me. To be amongst those legends, I will obviously definitely be there the last weekend in August to celebrate all the Hall of Famers that are going into the Hall of Fame. And Seth, this means the world to me. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I'll give you some background. This idea and this concept came from Mr. Bill Apter, who 2 years ago wanted to do something.
My mentor, my hero, Bill Apter.
So Bill Apter, who also is extremely active in the Hall of Fame, and you'll always see him wearing our hat, or a jacket, a t-shirt. He had a concept where he wanted to recognize Andy Kaufman, and so with that we invented the Excelsior Award. And Dave, I want you to take that, and that can be your sign out from going forward. Excelsior, from Stan Lee to you.
Seth, thank you so much. Seth Turner of the International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame will react when we're back, Thunder and I, in just 60 seconds right here. I'm Busted Open. Wow, what an honor.
Look at you, David.
Sorry, Seth, we ran out of time. Thanks, Seth.
I
Appreciate it.
We got it out there, man. I'm not worried.
Seth, I can actually, let me see if I can figure this out, and if I can get this headpiece that has been missing in AEW that I wrestled at, Forbidden Door. And
Yep.
I can get the gear and everything. Let me see if I can send it to you all.
Yes, and what we do is we put it on loan so that we clearly have a contract where you know when to get it and when to, but with AEW coming through, we'll just work it out. We work with the ring crew, we've got the connections with all of those people, so just plan when you're coming through in July,
Yeah.
bring it with you, and then
If not, I'll send it to you all guys so you guys can have it on display.
it would be beautiful. Dave, you're gonna get a ring, brother, and you can use it.
Oh my God.
Seth, I love you, man. Thank you so much for thinking of me. Thank you so much.
Listen, it's been a symbiotic relationship, and I know you gotta go do your show, but let's catch up down the road. Please, get to
Yeah,
Albany.
we want to do something. I spoke to our boss. They want to maybe do something at the event. All right.
Yep, live Busted Open,
Definitely
right?
talk.
But live Busted Open from the arena that day. We'll turn it into a 3-ring circus for you.
All right, Seth. Thank you so much for everything,
We'll
Seth.
see you down the road.
Appreciate you, man.
Okay, Thunder,
All right.
nice to see you and speak to you a little bit further.
All
right.
You too.
All right.
Take care.
Let me show you guys quickly, before you hang up, I'll show you a little bit. I don't know if you can see Gordon.
No, it's pretty wild.
All right, I can't go in the other room. We'll see you.